So a couple of the other things that have been, issues is one, he resource guards stuff, right? Toys and food specifically, right? 2, he's horrible about trying to get up on the counter and jumping for things that he doesn't want, right? And 3, his walk was really sloppy. So we'll break down then, when I did their last lesson, I went to the house, and obviously our first lesson, we were focused on removing the reinforcement behind the growling and stuff like that. But now we're at a place where it's like, okay, now we need to start chipping away at these other things to keep taking his head and bringing it down a few notches, taking his brain and bringing it down a couple notches and being more respectful over her. So like the resource guarding of toys, right? There was no concrete routine for how we take toys away from this dog, right? So we implemented, hey, this is how we teach a sound out command. This is, how we go and actually take the object from him with the feeding, right? Like she was not feeding him in a terrible way necessarily, but she was kind of doing it in an unnatural way that was still putting a lot of pressure on him, right? Like she was like sitting on the floor next to him while he was eating and stuff. And like, there wasn't really a good routine for making sure she's like claiming the bowl before she gives it to him and all that kind of stuff. So we made some adjustments for that, right? We got in a position where we clearly started correcting for the counter surfing. We were able to catch that and reduce the probability of that. And then the walks... and I'm absolutely not like ripping on this lady over this. Obviously, she's very wonderful, and she's been doing all of the homework really well. But she had this thing she was doing on the walk where she's got this beagle, and then she has a like a 14-year-old, not Chihuahua, I don't know, some little scruffy dog, whatever. And she was like, like most owners do, like, I want him to be able to be a dog and sniff. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have a problem with him sniffing as long as obviously you're structured about the in-between sniffing time, obviously. So we go out on the walk, and we go for like a little walk down her street. And she had this routine where she would put him into a cum, and she would try to make him walk really nicely. And then she would stop and release him to sniff every single mailbox they walked by. So it was like she would heel him for like 15 feet and then release him, then heel him for 15 feet, then release him.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, okay, I was like, maybe let's heel him like all the way to the end of the street.
Yeah.
Then you could let him sniff like one mailbox at the end. Because the problem was like, she was just like, she thought he was blowing her off, which he was a little bit, but like, she was really just confusing him more than anything, I think, because it was this constant, like, go, come back, go, come back, go, come back, Like, where he's just, like, constantly, like, never knowing, like, what to expect. And then you're creating these patterns of, like, every time you get near a mailbox, you're absolutely going to be able to sniff it, which makes them want to push and jump the gun on running off to sniff it. It's like, we just have to break some of those patterns. And the problem is, too, like, in addition to it confusing him, it creates more stress because then you're needing to correct him more for not healing in between. But, like, really, the reason you're needing to correct him more is because of, like, the problem you're creating by being confusing about the walk. And, the whole plan here is, one, reduce pushy behavior, right? Clear pushy behavior, create inhibitions for and get the dog to respect those things, right? 2, have really clear routines for the things that you need to do to ensure that you have a safe and successful way with minimal conflict to take resources, to interact with the dog, right? And make sure you're not accidentally reinforcing anything. And then 2, reduce overall stress by reducing overall conflict, right? So with your training, right? If you're finding yourself needing to nag your dog with corrections all the time for your basic training, whether it's walking, whether it's down stays, bed stays, all those types of things, that's going to keep your dog in a baseline higher level of stress, which is going to make all those other problematic behaviors that much harder to work through.